The all-new Hyundai Tucson is proof that the Hyundai brand is going up and up in quality and its offerings. This thing used to be the economical, sort of boring alternative in the mid-size SUV segment, where the Mazda CX-5 was more fun to drive, pretty interesting to look at. The Toyota RAV4 was the traditional choice. Now, with all the different trims and new styling, heaps of new features, and a completely revised driving experience, the new Hyundai Tucson is nearly at the top of my list in this segment. At the end of this video, I'll let you know if you should buy one of these, but first, let me walk you around the outside, the inside, and take it for a drive to let you know what's changed and to see if this really comes out on top in the affordable mid-size SUV segment. So this is the Highlander trim of the Hyundai Tucson. It doesn't have the trick motor, it doesn't have any turbochargers, nor does it have any all-wheel drive systems. It's just the front-wheel drive, naturally aspirated version, so it's about $45,000 before on roads, but it's got all the features and the visual flair that goes along with the upgraded Highlander model. With the exterior, I think Hyundai killed it with the design. I love the origami look to the metalwork, so much more interesting than what the competition's doing. The wheels look great on the Highlander, and they just do a really good job of just making this thing look interesting to look at, even though it is in the shape of a sort of mundane SUV. Some highlight things would include these daytime running lights, which run down the front of the grille. Looks really unique, and I just love looking at them at any point of the day. Even at night, they look really good. Alongside, there's heaps of folds going on. We've got some roof rails, and we even have a nice high ground clearance, so you're never stressed when going off road. And then around back, the highlight things would be the enamel badge. Almost, it's under glass, so it's like this flat badge at the back, which looks pretty interesting. And also, I gotta love the actual effort of hiding the rear wiper in the rear spoiler, so it just looks nice and clean around back. And what's gonna impress most people is when you first sit in this thing, and it's just mind-blowing how much effort Hyundai's gone to make this a minimalist, but also feature-packed interior. The Highlander trim will give you your cake, and you can, in fact, eat it here because it's got all of the features you could imagine, and it just makes any other car missing these features around this price point seem just a little bit overpriced. Well, for starters, let's talk about the build quality. I think it's pretty good for the price. There are some scratchy plastics down below, and look, there is some use of gloss black plastics, which I do not like at all, but look, I'm happy to overlook those things when you're paying around 45 grand as an entry price. It would be a little less acceptable if you were up in the $70,000 or $80,000 range. Now, what I do love is this little cloth trim that runs along the dashboard, the doors, and runs around back. I'm so much a fan of using a cloth material instead of like a plastic trim trying to imitate metal or something like that. Looks great. Love how the vents just move across the dash in sort of one fashion. They look really good. And then what the elephant in the room is the missing instrument binnacle cover. And then without that cover, it's just a flat dashboard, and it reminds me very much of the Tesla Model 3. Both displays are really easy to view in direct sunlight. They don't ever have an issue with sun glaring them out, especially the driver's display. The driver's display will give you all the information you need to know about your car, even tire pressure monitoring, and the dials will change their design depending on which drive mode you're in. Now, the 10.25-inch display in the middle is great. It's the traditional Android style tablet with the apps that you use to go to different things and functions in this car. It's really easy to use as a touchscreen. What I don't like are the capacitive buttons below, because I just wish I had a physical volume knob here. I've had a few instances where I was reaching over while driving and realized I had to tap on the screen. I don't know why Hyundai keeps changing this area all the time on the different cars. I think the hard buttons work really well as the physical buttons underneath, and look, then if you have to have capacitive buttons, then you can use it for the climate controls. But in saying that, I'm just not loving the gloss black plastic here. It shows a lot of dust and fingerprints. There's wireless phone charging in here, there's heated and cooled seats, and a heated steering wheel. It's just a really nice place to be, especially with this lighter color leather. It looks really quite nice. And look, the leather's not marking that bad, especially with several people using this over 6,400 kilometers of driving. And now it's not just the front where you are having a great time. The back seats arguably are even better. You have massive door openings, so it's never a challenge to get in the back here. Compared to the old Tucson, which felt a little bit tight, Hyundai have taken lessons learned and really just expanded this interior room. Sitting in a normal seat position, I have more than enough knee room, heaps of feet room, and as 5'11", this sunroof isn't even impeding on my headroom, so I'm loving it back here. Sitting in the rear left passenger seat though, that's where you're gonna have the best time because there's controls to the front left seat, as seen on pretty much every luxury car that Hyundai produces, and now they're putting it into all their family cars. I can push the seat forward so far out of the way, I am living it up in the back of a Hyundai Tucson. Words I thought I would never say. The leather's great back here. I have heated seats on the extreme side seats. The middle seat does not get a heated seat, but instead it's actually really usable. There's a pretty small transmission and exhaust tunnel, so it means that my size 11 feet can fit in there as well. And there's 2 USBs there, so you're never really gonna have people fighting for who's gonna be charging next. There's enough features back here so everyone's kept comfortable. And then what I love back here as well is just the light that this panoramic roof brings in. And so it just means that you don't feel claustrophobic. There's nice large windows. Everything else in here just feels so comfortable. So if you want to carry up to 3 adults in the back and 2 in the front, everyone's going to be riding pretty comfortably when you're going on a longer trip. The Tucson has a really useful feature, which is this hands-free opening when it detects that the key is at the back. I can tell you what, it's been so useful when I've been carrying multiple bags and just have to chuck stuff in the back here. Now with the boot space, we have 539 liters when you have all the seats folded up, and that is more than enough, especially when it's in this sort of configuration with a nice flat load floor, no giant boot lip, and you also have a nice tall opening so tall items can just slide nice and easily in. For the daily commute, more than enough. For a couple of bags, even a couple of suitcases, you'll be just fine with this amount of boot space. Now what I did find is that I had to crack out this net because small items love to hit this hard plastic and it makes an absolute racket, so make sure you use this net if you have any small items back here. I also wasn't the biggest fan of this cover as well. It was good if I had sort of any valuables in the back, but it's a little bit flimsy for my taste. And for those who know how valuable this is in 2021, there is a full-size alloy spare underneath the boot floor. So you don't have to be running around on that space saver if you run into a flat. You can continue on as you were on your journey. And now to make the most of all this boot space that the Tucson offers, you can fold the seats down using some pull tabs here in the boot. Now the seats, you'll have to go around and push them flat because they don't go flat automatically. And that gives you a total usable boot space of 1,860 liters, which is nice and cavernous and really easy to use for long journeys. So this is the entry-level Hyundai Tucson Highlander. It has a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder petrol motor under the bonnet, and it makes do with just 115 kilowatts and 192 newton meters of torque. And I'm sorry to say, but that's underpowered. 75 kilowatts per ton in an SUV like this isn't really the best situation you could have for a car of this size. When you want to carry around a bunch of equipment, people, and stuff like that, you will feel this thing strain. It's already straining with just me and a couple of bags in the back. When I really want to get on it, you can put your foot down flat in suburban areas and you won't cause a ruckus. All that will happen is that the revs sort of build up a little high and you get up to speed just fine. I do immediately recognize that this car needs the diesel option, which is the turbo diesel, or the 1.6 litre turbocharged unit. I think that would just make a world of difference, and also having an all-wheel drive system would just help with an additional bit of grip. What this car is comfortable. I love just hopping into this thing and driving anywhere. It is so comfortable. The suspension, the wheels all work together really well with this chassis to offer a really plush ride for a car like this. Now through corners, this is where if you want any sort of driving feel, the Tucson doesn't really give you much. It's very arcadey, the steering wheel, very disconnected from the front wheels. It's just like a point and go sort of situation, and then that brake pedal feel is a little doughy. So it's not gonna be something that if you love just pushing this a little bit more, especially since this has a sport mode, yeah, it's not really something that I would be looking for driving thrills in. Maybe the 1.6 litre turbo might awaken a little bit more in this car, but in the 2 litre naturally aspirated version, it is very much a daily driver spec. My fuel consumption's been just over 12.3 litres per 100 Ks over a couple of 100 kilometers of driving, and that's just fine. It's not exactly mind-blowing, and part of the issue with having a naturally aspirated motor is that it has to go higher up in the rev range. Higher revs means more fuel consumption. If you had the diesel, I think that would be my pick for the most fuel efficient model, and then if you want more power, the 1.6 litre turbo would be my pick in that case. All the tech in here really helps out too. Like, I love just using Apple CarPlay in here. All the safety tech keeps you really nice and feeling like you're in a bubble of safety. Something I found really odd was that getting up to the speed limit, it feels slow. Like if I put my foot down flat now, that's only climbed only a couple of kilometers an hour up. It's not exactly something that's gonna be super quick, but the speed does creep up faster than it feels. So this car feels like you're driving slower than the actual speed limit than in some other cars, and I put that down to being in a bigger, more spacious, more quiet, more comfortable car. So it does a good job of hiding how fast you're going, and just means you feel more relaxed at higher speeds. But really what this car is like what I've always said, it's a comfortable daily driver. The thing that really doesn't do it for me with this car, if it was to be my only car, is that it is a little bit boring to drive. Now, that's not a bad thing, because all you want to do is focus on getting to work, for example, or just going and getting to your destination nice and relaxed and safe, and you'll be able to enjoy your conversations just fine because there's no distractions in terms of the high revving motor or anything that's going to feel out of place. It is a very relaxing place to spend a lot of your time. But if you're spending a lot of time in this car by yourself, make sure you pick a good podcast or a good music playlist, because yeah, it's a little bit dull to drive. Okay, so should you buy one of these? Well, I think it's been clear that I'm a fan of the new Tucson, and especially compared to its competitors, it is far more interesting and just feels like a car that's nipping on the toes of its European competitors rather than trying to compete amongst itself with, say, Mazda or Toyota. Those cars are good, but this car just feels a little bit more special than those ones. However, what doesn't feel so special is this motor and drivetrain. Sadly, that is the biggest letdown for the base Highlander. I would be spending more to get a turbocharger under that bonnet, and an all-wheel drive system would make this a great option to go down on further trips if you're, say, heading to the snow. But that would be my only improvement. If you're looking for driving thrills in a daily driver too, this isn't gonna be it. This is just gonna be the practical daily driver that does it really quite well. But with all that said, my name's Cameron. Thank you so much for watching. This is Product Review Cars, and I'll see you in the next one.